Hello, my name's Belinda Colleen, and I'm back for my third video. I'm very excited to be discussing 9 rookie reseller pricing mistakes, and I certainly made my share of them. Just to give you a little bit of background, I've been selling on eBay just about 2 years and a month. I have really enjoyed it. I think I've made every mistake in the book. And I'm hoping that by starting a channel, I can help people that are beginners not make a lot of the same mistakes that I made. Because believe me, it's so much more fun when the ride's a little bit easier. And I'm here to debunk a lot of the things that I heard, or really just to clarify. I got some great advice on YouTube from some seasoned sellers that did a great job of explaining things at a very basic level. Some were a lot more detailed than others. And then some, I felt like in some ways they could have explained a lot more than they did, but I'm thankful for the advice that they gave. So let's get into it. The first pricing mistake, and it's one that I made a lot in the beginning, but I really try not to do that anymore, is starting at a price that's too low. Okay, there's a whole lot of things wrong with starting with a price that's too low, and you probably know some of them are very obvious. But when I say that, a lot of why I'm saying that is because if you start too low, you have no room to make offers, you have no room to run sales, and those two activities do generate a lot of interest and activity. So you really have to be very smart about starting. And if you're going to start with a price and you feel a little unsure about it, even after you've done your research, I would just say be sure to start a little on the high side so that you can give a 10 or 20% discount and still make money on your item. Okay, that's number one. And I'd say that is probably one of the biggest mistakes you want to avoid. The second mistake that I've made myself, especially when I first started, because I'd get so excited because I made a sale, because in the beginning the sales seemed like they would take a while because I didn't have very many things in my store, and so it took a while for me to make sales. So when I got an offer, I would be like, oh wow, I'm so excited, and I would just take the offer, even if it wasn't even close to what I wanted to get for that item. So I wasn't treating it like a business. It was a real emotional decision. In the beginning, especially the first month, you don't want to, there's no reason to take a lowball offer. Why should you? Give it some time to be out there and seen and viewed, and give it some time to sell. I mean, it's considered a really good sell-through rate if you sell it within 90 days. So I would say, don't take any of those low offers in the first 90 days for sure. Now, if it goes a year or 8 months and it's out of season and other things happen, then you might want to consider taking a lower offer. But in the beginning, you really don't need to. And I usually do counter offer just to show them that I'm, flexible and that I'm interested in bargaining a little, because I think so much of eBay and online sales, people want to feel like they got a deal. And if you give them 10% off, that's not a lot. And if if you're charging high enough prices, it's really not a lot. But that gives you the room to negotiate a little bit, and people are much more likely to deal with you if they think you're going to negotiate, unless you have such a rare item that they can't find it anywhere else. Okay, the third thing that people do, and now this is not something I've done much because I just don't tend to do this because I seem to go too low instead of too high, but some people price way too high and then they wonder why they never get a sale. If you're priced so far out of the market, unless you have an extremely rare item that they can't buy anywhere else and there's no competition, you usually cannot get away with that. I'm trying to think of some examples. Let's say you got a Tommy Bahama men's shirt, and they're popular in the summertime, especially with the real floral print, loud shirt that people like to wear to the beach or whatever. Um, let's say, and I can't even remember the prices of them, but let's say everybody's pricing those between $30 and $40, but you think your print is so beautiful that you want to price it at double that. Okay, and then you justify it to yourself because you see a sold listing that priced it that high and somebody paid that for it. Now, you've got to look at the factors that, to look at, like, was it a really weird size? Was it a 5XL? Maybe there's not that many guys out there that are that many shirts that are 5XL, and maybe you can get a lot more money for that because it's rare. And the poor guy that needs a 5XL is thrilled because he found one and he likes the pattern. There are ways to justify it, but normally you can't get away with that. So if you tend to price too high and always go for the highest value, your things will sit longer. I'm not saying it's not, that it's can't work for you if you have a lot of patience and if you're not really interested in selling things quickly. I mean, if you're really looking for income from this, then I don't think I would do that if income is your main priority. But if you're just seeing or viewing this as a hobby, well, you can do whatever you want. And if the money's is negligible anyway, it doesn't really matter. But I would say for most of us that are trying to create some supplemental income or full-time income, that you definitely don't want to price yourself out of the market. You've got to go in the range. I normally tell people to look at the top and the bottom and try to fit in around the 60 or 70 percentile marker. And then you can come down a little bit on offers and sales. But if you're too far outside of the range, it's really going to slow your business down a lot as far as making sales. Okay, this is a big one. Comparing apples to oranges. We both know that all jeans are not the same. So you might have a Levi jean. Levi's are very popular. They're not the most popular, but they're a popular jean brand. Everybody knows about them. Certain brands, certain models or styles, like 501 is one of the most popular. It's with the button fly. So let's say you've got a 501 and then you've got one of the other sizes or brands, styles that's not nearly as popular. You can't compare those two and say, well, that 501 Levi, I got $75 for that, last time, or this guy that I'm looking at the stats on, he got 75. So on these others over here that are not a brand, not one of the popular styles, I'm going to charge that for it. You got to make sure you're being reasonable and smart, and you are comparing apples to oranges because, apples to apples and not apples to oranges. The style has got to be the same. The color might be a little different, but there again, it's kind of funny. Sometimes color can have an impact on how much you can get for it. I personally think pink shirts on men look great. But there are men that will not buy a pink shirt, even today. It's hard to believe with the way things have changed. But, certain colors are more popular. Blue shirts are always popular. Red shirts are always popular. Pink for women, but not as much for men. Okay? Peach for women, not as much for men. Do men buy those colors? Of course they do. But we're talking about the numbers game, and in the numbers game, you want to go with things that give you your best chance. So when I buy a shirt for a man, and if I have choices, I'll probably buy one of the colors I think will be more popular and more likely to sell. Okay? Like I said, I think pink shirts look great on men, but you've got to go with the numbers. So when you're pricing it, if you end up with something that someone either gives you or you buy it, you might want to come down on your price a little bit if you feel like the color's not as popular. Or if the size is kind of, like if it's a little teeny size for men, there aren't that many little teeny men out there, okay? There are some, but let's face it, there aren't that many. So if you have a small shirt for a man, you might have to go down on your price a little bit to get it to move. because there's just not as many shoppers. Now, that could play both ways. Let's say there aren't as many small men, so there aren't as many small shirts. So that could go both ways. You're going to have to look at the data and decide, in this case, how many small shirts are listed. You've got to just look at the marketplace. I mean, I'm making these generalities, and I probably shouldn't. Look at the marketplace and see what bears it out. I know at one point, a friend of mine said, you need to buy all those. When you see giant shoes, size 15, you should be picking those up no matter what. And I said, why? 15? How many guys wear a 15? Well, I thought about basketball players and some of the biggest guys you think about. But they said, because those guys don't have enough shoes to pick from. So I went on and I did some research, and they have made a point. But this is where it gets tricky on data. There aren't as many size 15 shoes out there as there are, say, size 11, which is a very popular size. But then I don't know how many guys have size 15 shoes. I wasn't really at the point where I was ready to dig in, because the problem is it's skewed data. I've got the data on the listings and the data on the solds, which does help a lot, but I don't know, how many guys out there are wearing size 15 shoes. So you got to look at it all and make decisions based on that. But the main thing is you've got to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges, so that you know that when you look at the pricing data, that you are basically looking at things that are almost exactly the same. The style's got to be the same, and then maybe the color's off, and you, like I said, you can make a few changes based on color if you want to, or even size, based on what you think the data shows for those variables. Okay, here's a good one. Pricing emotionally. Now, I have been very guilty of that. I'm probably more emotional than an analytical person by nature, although I do love to do research. I've always enjoyed that. But the thing about pricing emotionally, what I've found is some of the things that I have, that I own, that I thought, well, I'd like to clear up my house. I don't want so much clutter. So I'd start to put my things online. And this is where it gets tricky. I would think about something, oh, so-and-so gave this to me at Christmas. And I really, really do love it. But it's just, I don't have any room for all these knickknacks that I've gotten over the years. And then I'll look at it, and it's not worth much. And I'll think, well, that can't be right. And I'll look at it again, because I just know it's got to be worth more than that, because I think it's so beautiful and it's so nice. And I know my relatives love me and they gave me something nice. And so, so I would have a hard time putting a realistic price on something. And sometimes too, there are a lot of things that don't do well on the secondhand market. When you purchase them and they're bought on the firsthand market, the price is quite a bit higher, and then you're shocked when you see what they go for on the secondhand market, like eBay or Poshmark or Depop or whatever, and you can't believe it. You're thinking, wow, how can that be? How can this $140 item go for $27? I mean, that doesn't make sense. So if you're going to price sentimental items, you have got to realize that you're going to have to take your emotion out of it, or just be willing to sit on it, or just don't even put it on eBay if it's going to break your heart. Because honestly, there were things that I would have gotten so little for. I decided I would just put up with the clutter, because I could not emotionally part with them for so little money, because it was such a sweet gift and it meant so much to me at the time. So, you got to keep the emotion out of pricing as much as you can. It's not always easy, and especially when it's something that was a gift or something sentimental or romantic. These are things that are kind of hard to price, and that's why we get in trouble with them. Now, something to think about is, how rare is the item? Okay. Pricing should be one of the big factors when you do pricing, is you consider how rare is this item. Because, and especially if you can't find anything like it or exactly like it, that's where it gets really interesting. you think, well, this is a really unique one, and it's rare. And when you do your search, you can't even find anything like it. So then pricing becomes very interesting. You kind of get to pick your price. And that, like art, is one of those types of items. I think a lot of pottery work or artwork or paintings, it's hard to price. And you can look at things that have sold, and I would definitely encourage you to do a lot of research and really dig down deep, because artwork is so it's not objective, it's subjective. It's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. So you have to really think a lot and hard about that. But I would definitely say, how rare is this? And will someone fall in love with this so much that they'll be willing to pay more for it? And if so, how long am I willing to keep it at that price? And how big is it to store? I always think about that too, especially with artwork and things. How big is this thing going to be to store? Is it flat, or is it round? Is it a piece of pottery, or is it a picture with a frame? How big is it? And is it something that I might break by mistake, or my cat might knock off a table? If that's the case, that's going to also factor into my decision about pricing. So you've got to really approach pricing rare items as a unique challenge, and especially when you can't find anything just like it. Just try to make sense out of it based on things that are similar to it. For instance, definitely with art, if you can find another piece of that artist's work, then you can compare to that, even if they're quite different. Now, of course, size matters. With paintings, the frame matters a lot. So you have to factor in all that stuff too. Now, here's another one. I try not to sell anything with flaws, but sometimes I do. And what it usually happens because I don't see the flaw in the thrift store or wherever I get it. I don't see the flaw at first. I bring it home, and then when I'm washing it, or when I'm preparing it or processing it or getting it ready to list, I find it. Of course, that's a horrible thing. It always upsets me. I mean, not terribly. I don't have a breakdown or anything, but I don't like it, and that's just kind of a letdown. It's like, oh, how did I miss that? I missed it. And that is what happens sometimes. You miss things. It's just going to happen. And so you can't price that the same as if it doesn't have a flaw. And you need to price accordingly. Of course, that when you list it, you've got to point out the flaw, and you need to take a picture of the flaw. Because if you're going to sell it, you've got to make sure the buyer is going to be aware of the flaw. And a lot of times I'll put in the description or somewhere, priced low due to flaw or something like that. And then that way they know they're getting a deal, and they can decide how important that flaw is. A lot of people, especially if doesn't show very much, so many times flaws don't show that much. And especially if you buy them and you get them home and then you think, and you didn't see them, chances are they're not extremely obvious. And especially if it's a belt or a pair of shoes and it's like hidden under a little, I don't know. I mean, how much do people see your entire shoe or your belt, if you're a man especially? If it's underneath, or if it's on the sole of the shoe, or if it's inside the foot pad of the shoe. I mean, all kinds of things don't show up. And so, but you still have to talk about the flaw, and you still have to give them a little bit of a break to encourage them to buy something that's less than perfect. And of course, we just assume that used things are less than perfect, but people don't always reflect that in the price, and they should, because otherwise that thing's probably going to sit for a long, long time unless you give them a little break, a little encouragement to buy that flawed item. Okay, another thing. The other pricing thing that you have to consider is the season. If you're selling swimsuits in January that you've had in your inventory for a while, I would probably price them, instead of at the top on the higher side during the summer months, I would price them middle and mid lower. I mean, yes, people take trips, they go on cruises, they do things so that they need bathing suits in the winter. But believe it or not, I think buyers expect to get a deal when they buy a bathing suit in the winter. And so many resellers will adjust their pricing from season to season. So if you want to be competitive, you're probably going to have to adjust your pricing too to reflect that you're selling a swimsuit in January or a sweater in May. That's just the way it's going to work. And I do adjust mine up and down a little bit. Now, because I'm in Georgia, we get a really short winter here, but we do get a winter and we need coats, and it's cold here today. But I'll always keep some summer stuff because I'm so close to Florida. I think I get a lot of customers from Florida, and because we have a short winter, my summer things really do well. Summer and spring, and especially the things that are kind of can be used almost any season, like a long sleeve linen shirt or blouse. I can sell that all year round, even though they're more popular in the summer. I mean, there are days in February and March even when I can wear one, or I can wear one in the winter with a sweater on or a jacket on. So I think sometimes even the part of the country that you're in will help you determine your price. I'm always surprised how many people order things from me or buy things from me that live in California. I always think, I'm surprised they wouldn't just order this from someone that lives closer to them so the shipping won't be so much. But there again, if you've got a special print or just something that is unique about your item, that could be the thing that makes them buy it. So it's kind of interesting. There's no hard, fast rules in pricing. There's just a lot of great suggestions. Now, this is controversial, and I'm going to talk a little bit about shipping because shipping ends up being part of your cost. And it's unfortunately an area in the beginning that I made some terrible mistakes in. And I have always let the customer pay for shipping. And where I'd get in trouble was estimating my shipping cost. So I took it on the chin a few times and ended up selling something and not making any money on it because the shipping was a lot more than I had expected. So I had to, absorb that expense. So I ended up not making any money on it. And the first time it happened to me was on a golf club. I thought I was going to be selling golf clubs. I like to play golf, and I could see that a lot of the golf clubs did well. I know people lose golf clubs, so I thought, well, this is great. Well, packing up a golf club was like a wrestling match with a bear. I mean, I had to take 2 different boxes, put them together. It was crazy. And the first time I was trying to squeeze it in, I realized just 1 inch off. If you're 1 inch off, it can almost double your price because there's weird cutoffs in shipping where all of a sudden you add an inch here, and now the price has gone haywire on you completely. So you need to, if you're a beginner especially, I would not do flat shipping because you have to guess too much. And you don't know enough to guess much unless you just have some other exposure or experience to shipping cost, or maybe you worked at the post office. I don't know. Maybe there are exceptions to that. But for most beginners selling on eBay, where you've got to deal with the shipping cost, I really recommend that you estimate when you list it. That's what I do. I don't box it up because it's too hard to store boxed items because it takes up a lot more room. But what I will do is I will eyeball it. And a lot of times I'll just measure the item and add 2 inches on either side for, the box. And wonder if and try to see, is there a box around here I can use, or am I going to have to buy a different box? Because some of the boxes are quite expensive too if you can't find one. I try to get those for free, but I'm not always capable of getting all my boxes for free. And I do pay for poly mailers for my clothes. So anyway, I think that it would save you a lot of heartache to make sure you're not doing flat shipping, at least for the first 6 months or a year, until you get really accustomed to shipping I mean, I've been in this over a little over 2 years now, and I'm still not confident enough. I've thought about doing free shipping or flat rate, but honestly, I don't trust myself to do it because I don't want to lose money. Those are hard lessons to learn, because it's no fun when you lose a lot of money and then it's like, oh well, I guess I won't go shopping for a while because I just lost money and whatever. So I'm gonna try to slow down a little bit, but just be careful. And like I said, everybody's going to make up their own mind. And someday I keep toying with the idea of free shipping because I think I'll get a lot more customers. Because I know when I buy things, I love free shipping. Oh my goodness, I love it because then I don't have to think too much about it. Then I only have to focus on the one price and the tax. But then when shipping gets into it, it seems like funny money all of a sudden. So I know there's an appeal there, and that buyers like free shipping. But in the beginning, I would be careful with that. If you do it, maybe give yourself a few months so that you feel a little more confident about your prowess and shipping cost area. So pricing becomes such an important thing, and I don't want to beat it to death. I think it's just real. There are so many considerations, and if you make these types of mistakes in pricing, you will cut out your profit, and well, let's face it, it's very depressing if you're not selling anything because your prices are too high and nobody's buying, or your prices are too low and you're not making any money. Either way, it's not fun. And your prices being too high means you're not, it doesn't even feel like a business if you're not getting any offers. So you want to be able to give those offers out. And I almost always run a sale. I almost always have a sale, and then I take offers off of the sale price, but my sales are usually 10%, just a little bit. So of course, when I'm pricing, I price with that in mind. I price thinking about the fact that 10% is going to come off in a sale because everybody wants a sale and they want to see the line through that number and think, oh, I got a deal. And then they think, well, let me make an offer. So then they offer 10% more off. So there's 20% right there, almost always. I would say, if I had to guess, and I should really look at the numbers on this and dig deep on it, I think at least 60% of my sales are from offers, where people just want a deal. And I think everybody's a little uncertain now. I'm not going to talk about the economy because it's too complicated and who knows what's going to happen. But people are feeling a little more uncertain than they did maybe, before the pandemic. Of course, the pandemic was horrible. But so now I think people want a deal, and you've got to give them a deal. That means that you've got to go shopping thinking about those deals. And when you buy, you've got to spend as little money as possible so that you can get your profit out of it. And that's not easy. But that's another video. Sourcing's another video. I've enjoyed talking to you. I hope you got something out of this, or at least it's something to think about as you move forward in your business. Happy holidays and happy hunting. Bye-bye.